Greetings to my fellow Odinists in our nation of Odin. It is a beautiful star-filled evening here in Hawaii. The night of the full moon, the 26th of January, 2013. To the southeast of me, there is a giant dark hot pink pillar of smoke rising up from Kilauea volcano with an eerie glow, and there is a moonbow overhead. Our last podcast was about an ancient Odinist prayer. This broadcast is about a very new, ultra-modern prayer, and about courage, priorities, and strength. Many of us object, quite rightly, to the idea of our gods and heroes being presented as cartoon characters. Everywhere for a couple thousand years, we have been encouraged to take a made-up religion seriously and to consider our true religion a myth. There is even the word balderdash, in which nonsense is equated with our god Balder, rather than with Jesus. Quite ridiculous when one thinks about it, but offensive nonetheless. My intention in presenting a new prayer is hardly to modernize anything, at least not in the present sense of the word. In fact, in my view, the ancient world was far superior to our present world in every way. At that time, we were not cultural Marxists who hated the natural nobility of our folk, or who hated excellence. We valued that what was good, and disregarded that was evil and corrupting were at all possible. A simple thing, but one that made all the difference in the world. In the Saxon tradition, Irmin is an ancient Teutonic god of war, and the Saxons worshipped him in the shape of a pillar called Irminsul or Herminsul. There may have been a relationship to Odin as well, since an earlier form of the word Irmin is his epithet, Odin Jorminu. In Westphalia, sacrifices were made to Irmin after military victories, in an attempt to destroy not just property and life, but morale. Charlemagne tore down the Irminsul pillars of northern Europe in 772 CE, and the sacred trees were felled. This probably did much to dishearten the Saxons. For anyone who is not familiar with the story from a pagan perspective, Charlemagne was the founder of the Frankish Empire and did much to spread the plague of Christianity across Europe. This was by force, of course, since otherwise no person in his or her right mind would have acceded to it. In fact, a death penalty was created and enforced against those who would not be baptized to the hideous foreign religion. For 32 years, Charlemagne fought and won various battles against the Saxons, only to have them rebel and return to paganism once the Frankish forces had left. As a free people, something we can probably barely imagine, the Saxons wished to stay that way. There is a memorial made for the Saxons who were killed at what was called Das Blutgerücht der Verden, the bloodbath of Verden, or bloody verdict of Verden. An entry for the year 782 CE in the Royal Frankish Annals records the execution of 4,500 brave Saxon nobles of this place, Verden an der Aale. Charlemagne had ordered them killed because they refused to betray their people, and their gods. This was the first of many European genocides, or brother wars, fought either for Semitic religion or directly initiated by Semitic peoples, or both. Once he had eliminated the nobles who had tried to protect the freedom of the people, Charlemagne waged a 30-war genocide campaign against those who were left who had any identity or character, and who were true to their own beliefs. Horrifically, and perhaps correctly, a scholar named Barbero suggests that the most likely inspiration for the mass execution of Verden was the Bible. He cites the biblical tale of the total extermination of the Amalekites and most of the Moabites by David. Barbero thinks it likely that Charlemagne, and I quote, wanted to act like a true king of Israel, unquote. In its physical and symbolic sense, the Irminsul is the column of the world, our sacred world tree, an embodiment of the life force which must be renewed. It is related to the great tree of stars known as the Milky Way, and to the Ionic column, and to the pillars of Heracles, and also to the masculine war god victory pillars of Greece and Rome, some of them phallic like those at Delos. These also were torn down or damaged by the Christians in order to emasculate European warriors, take away their identities and honor, and make them sheep. Plus ultra. In Latin, this refers to the most superlative example. The phrase is associated with the pillars of Heracles, the two great sentries on either side of the Straits of Gibraltar, marked for the ancient Spaniards the westernmost boundary of the known world. It also means excellence, or Arete, the extreme height of human achievement. There was a time when, as all other people have the sense to do, we Europeans valued the best of our kind, our natural nobility. When one of us had the blessings of the gods, it was considered a blessing for all our tribe, not a reason to hate or envy or fear. We were like the Othala rune, a family once. When we hate and fear all that is good and excellent, and even truth and reason itself, and revile those sent by the gods, we also revile the gods and disregard their gifts. When we do not use our own gods-given gifts, we do the same. So what does any of us, man or woman, do when those who envy us attack us, or even when a whole race is doing so? The first thing is to realize that it is usually not personal. It is a reaction of the mob, a wrath of the blockheads. It is not about who you are in any way. It is about what you are. I would always advise anyone not to waste time or effort courting the goodest opinion or society of enviers and underachievers, whose good opinion means little, and whose society is not worth having. People with this outlook generally cannot be trusted. And remember that a person really is known by one's enemies. Be polite to such folks, but do not allow them to make their problems and insecurities your problem, or capitulate to their madness. It should not be necessary for you, me, or anyone else to accept abuse or to be less than what is, in order to make another person feel comfortable. Noli illegitimi carborundum. Do not let the bastards grind you down. People who cannot create often wish to destroy and drag down those who can. Don't let them. There is a lot to fear in this world. Fear is a relative term. To someone who swims in shark-infested oceans every day, a swim at the local pool may not seem worrisome. But to someone who has never swum before, it could well seem so. Sometimes the question is, what do you fear most? At other times it can be what matters more. Are there things that are literally worse than death? Absolutely. This is something we need to bear in mind at everything we do, because it will take all that each of us sane ones who value merit have to reverse this situation and save this world from utter darkness. There has been an oh-so-convenient directive sent out by several larger heathen organizations, which are Zionist-controlled, not to mix politics with religion. Odinists such as myself actually telling the truth about history, the truth that our people desperately need to know, instead of posting about Indian massacres as they do, has made them label us haters, and they want to silence us. It is always a good idea to consider the motivation. If I were to tell you not to mention the Holodomor Holocaust in a memorial read, please don't listen to me. This would mean that I had sold out and had betrayed my people, but this is not going to happen. The truth is that there is no divide between politics and true tribalism, nor has there ever been. People prayed before battles and were one in spirit. They celebrated religiously after winning them. They sought the welfare of their people and organized charity where necessary. And the center of this activity has always been our temples and our heathen congregations, and so it should be now. The idea that we are supposed to be depoliticized as a religion and that this is somehow holy is being promoted by those who run these fake heathen organizations for a reason. They wish to Christianize, to disempower and declaw the wolf so that it cannot protect itself. Politics and religion are also indistinguishable, in that the rights and well-being of a tribe have always gone together historically. As an Odinist priestess, I have already been denied equal access and advertising for our services at a military camp in a national park. And the reason is because our religion is Nordic, not Semitic. We have been harassed in many other ways as well, as I'm sure many of you have. I shall not cooperate in taking away the few rights our people do have, or endanger their interests. At the present time in America, one does not have the right to endorse a political candidate. But just as a black Baptist minister can give a sermon about the evils of African slavery, I can give a memorial service about our dead. Use your rights while you can, because not exercising them leads to their loss. To embrace this outrageously dishonorable order is not just an insult to our gods and ancestors, but it means the certain death, not only of our religion, but of our people. And a race that is extinct has no religion. Our prayer is taken from Frank Herbert's science fiction novel, Dune. In it, a young man who is part of the nobility is in the process of learning to deal with what he is. Living in a far different society, admittedly a fictional one, he does not have as many problems coming to terms with how different he is as someone might in our world. The reason is because the scene is set in a more ancient, or one might say, more futuristic society, where excellence is admired, not reviled. What follows is the prayer that Paul Atreides in Dune recites in order to focus and steel himself to face danger. It is called the Bene Gesserit Litany Against Fear, and it shares much of its character and religious philosophy with that of our folk. I dedicate this prayer to those real men and women and true heroes, such as Dr. Duke, Sylvia Stoltz, Ernst Zundel, and David Irving. I salute you. Thank you for fighting to save us from the darkness of ignorance and fear. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Waes Hael to those of my brothers and sisters who are capable of rising above cultural Marxism and fear. You are the new nobility of this world and its only protector. And in your hands and that of our gods lies our fate. We must all strive to be worthy of this sacred trust. We have quite a battle on our hands. But for those of us who have awakened, one thing we will not have a problem with is fear.